This is Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, now available on iTunes and other podcast clients, and on the free Gun Dealio smartphone app for iPhone and Android. Feel free to call Tom now at 1-TOM-TALK-GUN or 866-825-5486, or email Tom at guntalk.com. Now, once again, here's Tom.
All right, back with you, Tom Gresham. Of course, we're talking about the school shooting in Florida and the aftermath of that, which is so many politicians popping up and screaming, gun control, gun bans. We have to have ban guns. We have to ban the most popular guns used in America. We have to ban the rifles that are used by hunters. We have to ban the rifles that are used in competition. We have to ban the rifles that are used in the national matches. We have to ban, confiscate, ban. And how do they justify all of that? Well, they have no legitimate use. Really? We got 10 million people own these guns. And they function just like the guns that we've had for, 50, 100 years. No difference in the functionality whatsoever. But you don't like the looks of them. It's not really that. Let's get honest. What it really is about, this is the most recent identifiable subset of firearms that they think they can get away with banning. I've been doing this for a long time, 50 years. And I've seen them call for a ban on handguns because they thought they could get that. I've seen them call for a ban on small handguns. They call them Saturday night specials. I've seen them call for a ban on big rifles that shoot a long way. They call them sniper rifles. I've seen them call for a ban on ugly guns. Oh, these are AR-15s. They're black and they're ugly. They look like military guns. Military-style guns. Style. Going to ban guns on the basis of style. Okay. Here's what it is. It's what can we ban now on the way to banning them all? Maybe we can get the Saturday night specials. Maybe we can get all the handguns. Maybe we can get the sniper rifles. It's whatever small sliver they can demonize and try to go for at the time. And that's what this is about. Okay, simple as that. Now, switching. I got an email from a fella a couple of days ago. He said, hey, Tom, I'm going to be driving my family, going to D.C., want to go up to Niagara Falls and going to Canada. And I like to be able to carry everywhere I go. What should I do? What do I need to know about that? I wanted to say don't go or don't carry. If you're going to go into D.C. and you're going to go into New York State, and for heavens, you cannot carry your handgun into Canada. But what really would have helped him is if he had had a copy of the Traveler's Guide to the Firearm Laws of the 50 States by Scott Kappas, and Scott joins us right now. Hey, Scott, I wish you had had a chance to talk with this guy. He's going to D.C., he's going to New York State, and then, of course, he wants to go into Canada, and he's got his carry gun with him, man.
Tom, it's good to be with you. I know that's a tough trip, especially if you're traveling through D.C. and up to New York. And it is ironic because, I tell people this all the time, that traffic laws in this country have developed in a very uniform fashion. And I think it's because we developed the automobile at about the same time. And if you take a road trip up to New York or out to California, you're not going to have to really worry too much about the traffic rules in each of the states you're passing through. But the gun laws have developed completely differently from that particular paradigm. We've seen states that sit right next to each other, like Vermont and New York, that have a completely different view when it comes to carrying a gun. New York, you have to have a New York pistol permit, period. And they're not going to recognize any out-of-state permit. There's no other way to carry it. Even if it's in your car, unless you're simply passing through and you're not making any stops, it's illegal. And then you go into Vermont.
And even then, if you're in New York City, they will ignore the Firearms Owner Protection Act. And even if you're passing through, they're liable to arrest you, and they will be actually breaking the law, but it's up to you to try to get out of it.
Right, and someone found that out a couple of years ago when they were passing through LaGuardia with their guns. They were simply making a connecting flight, and they got arrested. And they said, wait, what about McClure-Volkmer? What about the Gun Owner Protection Act 1986? Court said, nope, only applies to vehicles. If you're in an airport passing through, that doesn't count. And, that's a case where you're thinking, wait a minute, I'm simply traveling through. It wasn't my fault. I got caught on a connecting flight, but it didn't matter. And it is, I guess, what is so ironic about it is, anytime something like this goes into effect, like at the federal level, states will find some way to get around it. I think Connecticut's Attorney General had to actually write an opinion in 1994 because the Connecticut State Police were still arresting people, even if they were in compliance with the 86 law. And he said, wait a minute, this is federal law. We're under an obligation to obey it. And up until that time, you were still getting arrested, even though you were in perfect compliance with the recently passed law. So it is tough. I mean,
let me throw something at you, just hypothetical. It would not be overstating it to say you could be legal, standing on a piece of ground legal, and take one step over a state line and be committing a felony.
Yeah, oh, exactly. And in fact, I found that out back in the, I guess, mid-'90s, just with Kentucky and Ohio. Back then, Ohio didn't have any kind of licensing law, neither did Ohio, and neither did Kentucky. But in Kentucky, you could carry a loaded pistol in your car if it was in plain view or in the glove compartment. If you passed into Ohio, though, there was no way to have that loaded pistol in your car. And if it was concealed and loaded, you could be charged with a felony. And we had people here in Kentucky that didn't think twice about it because, we're right here on the border, and you're thinking, laws don't change that radically. Your traffic laws. If I go up to New York, I don't need to take a test to know what the traffic laws are. But, yeah, it's amazing. Gun laws, you can go from being perfectly legitimate, say, in Kentucky, to being a felon in Ohio. And those states are not that radically different in terms of demographics, but on the gun issue, they just become a lot different. And look at even the Northeast. You think of the Northeast as being pretty highly regulated, but you've got states like Vermont and New Hampshire right next to states like Massachusetts and New York. And those are two completely different universes when it comes to gun laws.
Well, I think of Idaho and Oregon. You're legal in Idaho. You go into Oregon, your permit's no good there. So you got the Traveler's Guide to the Firearm Laws of the 50 states. We shouldn't. I'm going to say this. We shouldn't need this book.
Right.
If things were right, we wouldn't have to have this book, right?
Right. Exactly. It's a case where, a couple of years back, you had the whole gay marriage issue, and not to get into other issues, but, the idea was states wanted to regulate that on their own, and the other side said, nope, this has got to be a right no matter where you're at. If a state doesn't want to recognize it, tough. It is a federal constitutional right, and it was sort of forced into the situation by the Supreme Court. Well, now, my question is, then why should New York and Connecticut and these other states be allowed to ignore the Second Amendment and say, nope, we're not going to recognize your right to carry because we don't like it?
Well, and that's all great, and we can have that conversation, but the reality is until we get that, we still need to know what the laws are as you travel. And we're a mobile society. We go places. We get in our cars. We travel. And every time you cross a state line, you're faced with another set of laws. How often do you have to update this book? How often do things happen?
I update it once a year. And, it's a case where some people might purchase it once every couple of years, and they're fine based on their travel habits. Other people might get a copy each year, and I try to do a yearly edition just so people know that, if they take the long extended trip every couple of years, they know exactly when the book gets updated. It's at the beginning of the year, and we have a link to the website so that what I call conditional reciprocity states. There are states that allow their state attorney general or the state police to basically change what states they recognize on a whim. And those states I update on the website throughout the year so that, if the list does change, people at least have an idea of it. Law changes generally occur towards the end of the year. That's when they take effect. But what's tough is the conditional states, the ones that they're not automatic. Like, for instance, Kentucky automatically recognizes any out-of-state permit. That's the law. That's not going to change unless the state legislature changes it. But there are other states like Minnesota. What they do is they tell the Department of Public Safety, formulate a list, and then you can update it at will when you decide that something changes. And so all of a sudden, mid-year, they make a change. Now, you think, well, okay, yeah, they can do that, but it can affect whether you're legal or not because they've decided to change what states they honor and what states they don't. And what's even scarier is sometimes they don't update the police in the state as quickly as they should, or, the police still have a list from 2 years ago. So, it's a lot easier if you're in a state that just provides the automatic recognition. You still need to know what the rules are in that state because some states require you to declare the permit status as soon as you're pulled over. Others wait. You say they can. They allow it to be where the officer has to demand it from you first before you have to declare that. But it's one of those things where at least you'll know whether or not your permit is legitimate to begin with. And there are probably about 25 states that have what they call the conditional reciprocity, where we allow a qualified source to decide it.
How do people get a copy of your book?
You can, I tell you what, Bloomfield Press sells it, gunlaws.com. I have a website, gunlawguide.com. The book, I think, is available through the NRA store. And there are quite a few other distributors that carry it, like Raymond Rumpf. And, but, gunlaws.com, Bloomfield Press. Alan Corman does a really good job. He's been selling it for about 20 years now. And he seems to promote it great, and he's been on the program before, and he's a good source for it.
Yep. The book is The Traveler's Guide to the Firearm Laws of the 50 States. If you travel outside your state and you have guns, you need a copy of it. Scott, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here.
Tom, thanks again. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. 866-TALK-GUN gets you in here. Now we are open lines. Give me a holler.
Responsible owners control access to their firearms, even when they may need them in a hurry. Liberty Safe, the nation's leader in gun safes, offers 6 models of handgun vaults. Strong, simple to use, open with a key or fingerprint. Put your handgun in the compact vault, lock it away until you need it. Then it's in your hand almost instantly. Pick the Liberty Safe handgun vault that's right for you. LibertySafeHD.com.
This land, once wild and free, fades now from our memory. But I remember what it was like, what we were like, what we are capable of when we band together. Perhaps more than any other landscape, wetlands embody the life-giving abundance that nature has to offer. And perhaps more than any other organization, Ducks Unlimited is working to ensure that our continent's wetlands not only survive, but thrive for generations well beyond this one. These natural wonders are where waterfowl begin their cycle of life, where the deer and the antelope play, and where we, the people, gather together to see and share what makes the outdoors so great. The time is now to band together with organizations like Ducks Unlimited. The time is now to rescue our wetlands.
In the war on terror, fighting crime in the streets, in competition and homes around the world, one name in firearms stands out: Sig Sauer. Our pistols and rifles are renowned for their unfailing performance. This same commitment to excellence can be found in our line of SigTac accessories and the training offered by the Sig Sauer Academy. For unmatched quality, reliability, and innovation when it counts, choose Sig Sauer. Visit SigSauer.com today.
Back with you, 866-TALK-GUN, or just dial Tom. Talk Gun gets you in your line 4. Justin's with us out of Granite City. Hey, Justin, welcome to Gun Talk.
Thank you much for taking me. I had a couple things I was hoping to say, and hopefully I don't take too long. But, to me, this all really comes back to people, well, I should even say my generation. I'm 31 years old. My generation and younger, we're not, I don't want to say aggressively, but we're not really pushed morality. And you don't see that anymore. I have a 14-year-old daughter, and I hear constantly how one of her friends is going to hurt themselves or whatever else. And, people aren't raised around the dinner table anymore. And I'm guilty of it as well. However, my daughter does know. We discuss more just in general, but people aren't taught to care about one another. They're not raised with a Bible in one hand and the gun in the other. But also, that Sunday dinner after church where you had grandma, mom, dad, aunts, uncles, cousins at grandma's house after church, where things have just changed to where everybody looks at a cell phone anymore. And that's where they learn how people act. And when they watch reality TV, it's, they learn just to yell at each other. That's it. After the shooting occurred.
Let me jump in because let me get involved here because I want to mention that reality TV, of course, is phony. It's all scripted. It's horrible. And they tell people to yell at each other. And so, yes, people watching that think that it's normal to yell at each other, to essentially have a dysfunctional family because it's fiction. And that's what they create. They create conflict. But you're right. People watch it all the time. They think that's normal, and then they behave that way. But I got to say this. Kids behave that way only when the adults let them behave that way. Unfortunately, some of the adults are watching the reality shows, and they're behaving that way as well. And once you have that situation, it's very tough. I'm going to make a suggestion here. Because I think you're going to like this. There's a book we're reading here. My wife just finished it. I'm about to start it. It's called The Vanishing American Adult, Our Coming-of-Age Crisis and How to Rebuild a Culture of Self-Reliance. But all you have to remember is The Vanishing American Adult, and it talks about a lot of the things you're talking about here. It's by Senator Ben Sasse, S-A-S-S-E. Basically, it's, what are we teaching our kids? Do we put them into situations where they get physically challenged, intellectually challenged? Do we require them to do chores? Do we require these things of them? Or do we essentially, and unfortunately, I think a lot of times we let them raise themselves. Does that make any sense, Justin?
Oh, definitely. I have, like when my family and I, if we go have dinner at Applebee's or something, on a Friday night, we'll see a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, and mom and dad, all four are on cell phones. And you're 100% correct. A lot of parents are no longer involved in their kids' lives. And that post that my wife read to me after the shooting occurred, I'm sure you've probably heard of it or seen it. It was by a teacher who's coming up on her 20th anniversary of being I believe, a high school teacher.
Yes.
And she discussed where...
It went viral. It was wonderful.
Yes, and it was needed. And she spoke about fearing having to contact a parent about what their perfect little angel did wrong. And, it's well, what did you do to cause my child to act like that? Why weren't you
exactly
treating them better or whatever else? And, and so then, when people like you and I and other people, other like-minded individuals say, it's not the tool, it's the person. It genuinely is. Because, since the day I got my CCW, I have had a gun on my head every day, but probably 5 days total for the past couple of years. It has never once jumped out and hurt anybody, ever. And people don't take responsibility. Yep. And, along with the responsibility, this just goes to show you, I know people are going, murderers are going to schools now because they're sitting ducks, unless that school's protected.
Yeah, but there's so much to this, and I've got to keep moving, Justin. I've got other folks on that I want to get on, but I appreciate you make some excellent points there. I appreciate the call very much. Deb is on line 1 in Farmington, New Mexico. Hey, Deb, you're on Gun Talk.
Hi. I have some points.
Hey there.
Are you there? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go through these quick.
I am.
Okay. 1,
Sure.
There's never been a shoot-up at a police station. Hello? A bank in Texas used to get robbed all the time. A bank in Texas used to get robbed all the time. They put a sign in their window that says firearms allowed. They haven't been robbed since. And if they're going to ban guns, they better ban vehicles because vehicles kill a lot more people than guns. And they better ban the medical profession because they kill more people than all the other killings combined. And people that profess to care about the students... Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, I was just going to say, I think now, the problem is now that you're working with logic, it's not making sense because when you start to say, well, if you really cared about this, you would do these things, and then you realize, well, they're using this as cover to try to make a change in American culture. It's not the guns they don't like. It's the gun owners. It's the self-reliance. It's the independence that they don't like. They like you to be dependent upon the state. And look, I appreciate the call. I got to keep running, but there's a thought I want to throw in here, and that is this. If you take care of yourself, you make them uncomfortable. Well, why would that be? How could that be? The very act of you taking responsibility for yourself and not requiring the need of others, when they look at that, what they see is that they are inadequate. I'm not making this up. They look at that and go, well, that person is actually pretty self-reliant, and I'm not. And I don't like how that makes me feel. And weirdly enough, rather than them saying, well, then I will become self-reliant, and then I will feel better about myself and my situation, they go the other way. They say that I will make sure that no one is self-reliant and that everyone has the same dependencies that I have. And then I will not feel bad because there are other people who are better prepared than I am. We will all be mutually dependent. We will all be depending upon the government. We will all be depending upon someone in a uniform who can bring a gun, rather than saying, I will have a gun and I will know how to use it and I can stop this kind of a mass shooting. They said, no. You must get on the phone and call and say, would you please have someone bring a firearm over here to stop this? And it is that desire to not feel bad. And they do that by saying, I want you to be just as dependent as I am, and then I will no longer feel inadequate. And it's not just that they feel inadequate, they know that they're inadequate, they know they're not prepared, and they know they're not protecting their children, and they know they're not doing everything you're supposed to do. And rather than do it, they want you to stop taking care of yourself and your family. It's really as simple as that.
Gun Talk encourages you to support the local sporting goods store, gun stores, ATV dealers, and other local businesses in your area who advertise on this station and Gun Talk. Only together can we protect our rights. You're listening to Washington Times opinion page regular contributor Tom Gresham.
It's always fun talking with somebody who calls in who doesn't really want to have an honest conversation. We had a caller earlier. He's a gun banner. He said he was a teacher. It's interesting because you get these conversations and you know where it's going to develop pretty quickly. When he said, well, machine guns are illegal. And I said, well, no, actually, you can own a machine gun. He said, well, they cost $50,000. And well, no. But I wanted to say, well, which is it? Are they expensive? Or are they illegal? Because you've said both at this point. Because obviously if they're expensive, you can buy them. They're just expensive. Now, the truth of it is you can buy one for they're expensive. Come on. They're $10,000 or so, and they can go up and up. You can spend 50. You can spend a lot more than that, as you can with almost anything else. But it's just interesting to listen. And then he says, well, AR-15s are the same as machine guns. And you're going, wait. No, I mean, I understand that they came from the same place originally, but they legally are not the same thing. They functionally are not the same thing. And they're not the same in terms of regulations of what it takes to own one. And with more than 10 million AR-15s or modern sporting rifles, if you prefer, in the hands of legitimate, lawful citizens, there's generally not an issue there. Certainly some are being misused. Some, not as much as handguns are misused. Many, many, many more people are murdered with handguns. Take a look at Chicago or Detroit. But somehow the call isn't for banning handguns. And here's why. You have to have been around long enough to know what's going on here. Because they tried that. Back in the 50s and 60s, they tried for a total ban on all handguns in the United States. That was the push. They couldn't get that. And they said, well, let's try to go get a subset of that. They tried for the Saturday night specials. That didn't work. And so they're not going after the guns that are used to kill most of the people in murders. They're going after the guns that simply look bad. They think we can persuade the public into thinking they're machine guns. So that's the goal. That's what they're doing. So you get this disingenuous, which is really a 50-cent word for dishonest efforts. And they say, well, AR-15s are the same as machine guns. Machine guns are illegal. No, they're not. It goes on and on. And you know where these conversations are going to go. But at the same time, look, if you don't like guns, if you think we should ban certain guns, and you are willing to have an honest, straightforward conversation about it, I'll have that conversation with you. 866-TALK-GUN is how you get in here. Let's see. Line 3. Vance is with us out of Reno, Nevada. Hey, how you doing, Vance?
I'm doing fine.
Great.
I'm recently retired, but I want to go into some tactics that I used.
Sure.
At work, get into arguments with people on this subject. I had two $100 bills handy just for that, right? And I'd flop it down on the desk and say, you want to bet? Well, I got to the point after a couple dozen times, when I did that, they would start thinking. Okay.
Well, what would you tell them you want to bet about? I don't understand that. What did you say you want to bet about?
Well, guns. Okay. Hunting. Okay. Well, these things have no hunting purpose. And I tell them, says, you want to bet? Boom. And I would bring my laptop into work, and I'd pull up the videos for them. If it's been a two-way bet, I'd be a millionaire right now.
I see where you're going.
They quit doing that, all right? As far as what's happened recently, I've been on some of the forums at some of the news websites. Can I name one? Like
sure.
American Thinker? Okay? And I've hit them with Kennesaw, Georgia, all right? Give you an idea? From 2007 to 2013, Kennesaw, Georgia had absolutely no murders, and their rape rate is 1 every couple of years, all right? Now, why has not an incident like happened to Columbine and all these others up to Parkland happened in Kennesaw, Georgia, where gun ownership is mandatory?
Well, I guess I'll say because gun ownership is mandatory. That's why.
Right. Okay. Now, as for that teacher, all right, he prefers calling the police. Well, AR-15s are evil guns, according to him, in a roundabout way. He didn't say so directly. So why are you calling the police when they have evil rifles? And
that's true. They are going to bring ARs. It's a great. Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, if you call the cops, they're going to bring guns. They're going to bring AR-15s with them. It's let me just jump in here, Vance. It's a great point. And look, thank you for your call. I have a friend who says the same thing. He'll talk with anti-gunners. They say, "Well, I don't like guns." He said, "What are you going to do if somebody breaks in?" He said, "Well, I'm going to call the police." He says, "Well, I'm confused. I thought you said you didn't like guns. You wouldn't let a gun in your house. But what do you think the policeman's going to have?" Well, that's different. Really? How? Well, he's trained. Okay. And it's my buddy Ray Ells. He says, "Well, then I take it you don't drive yourself anywhere, do you?" "Well, yeah, I drive." I said, "Well, how can you do that? You need a trained professional driver. That's way too dangerous. More people die on the highways than die with guns. You need a trained professional driver. You shouldn't be doing this yourself." And it just messes with them. That's what you're doing, Vance. I appreciate it. Let's see. Line 2, Derek's with us out of Madison, North Carolina. Truth Squad talking here, Derek.
Yes, sir. Of course, when something like this comes up, there's going to be discussion on Facebook and the news media's Facebook pages. And in particular, one of our local stations, they started spouting that 18 school shootings this year. And, of course, I immediately knew that wasn't correct. And called them out on it, which they immediately deleted the post. But surprisingly enough, one of their stories yesterday was that, that number's a little misleading, and actually admitted that was a little overinflated by the anti-gunners.
Well, you know why? You know why they did that? It was because of all places, the Washington Post came out with a story that says, no, there has not been 18 school shootings in 2018. And if it had been Fox News, they would have ignored the story. But when the Washington Post came out with it and said, no, this number you guys are all parroting, the thing that Jimmy Kimmel is saying, it's bogus, it's not true, and this is where it came from. It came from this advocacy group that was created by the gun banner Bloomberg. I'm really glad to hear your report that they came back and corrected it. They wouldn't have done that if it only been Fox, but because it's one of the outlets that they, bow down to, the Washington Post, then they said, oh, we don't want to embarrass ourselves. We actually have been telling lies. We've been copying their news because, there are very few news reporters, but there are a lot of news repeaters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And not only that, of course, the common people making comments about all semi-autos need to be banned. And I'm like, okay, well, do you realize what a semi-auto is? And I don't think they did.
No, they said, well, it's a machine gun. Well, how would they not be confused on it? Back when we were debating the 1994 Clinton gun ban, also known as the assault weapons ban, every time CNN ran a story on banning semi-autos, they ran video of machine guns. Every time. I mean, it was purposeful. They knew the difference. We had pointed it out to them many, many times, and they continued to mislead the public purposefully. The idea was to make people think semi-autos are machine guns, and they still do it. And then we have this guy who just called the show and says, AR-15s and machine guns are the same thing. Well, no, that's silly. They're not. The fact that that's like saying a car going down the street can go 200 miles an hour because it looks just like a NASCAR car. Not the same thing at all. Very interesting. Look, I appreciate the call. I got to run to a break here. 866-TALK-GUN. We'll get you in. I'm Tom Gresham, and this is Gun Talk.
Crimson Trace announces the revolutionary Link, the world's first wireless laser and white light system. Combining a green laser at 300 lumen light with instinctive activation for AR-type modern sporting rifles. Link offers wireless control of the laser and light from the ergonomic replacement grip, eliminating the need to reach for the rifle's forend. Link. Smart, simple, secure. Available now. Visit crimsontrace.com to find a dealer near you.
Hi, this is Tom Gresham from Gun Talk. America is losing critical wildlife habitat at a rate of 1 football field every hour. It's happening on the Louisiana coast, but it's critical to all sportsmen and conservationists. These precious wetlands provide winter habitat for more than 10 million ducks and geese annually, waterfowl that migrate north through dozens of states. Don't shrug it off. Get involved. You can help. Visit vanishingparadise.org.
Attacks happen every day. How will you react? See real people put into real-life criminal attack situations on First Person Defender. Discover what works and what doesn't. Kidnapping, ATM robbery, home invasion, and other attacks. Learn how to save your life and the lives of your family. Get the entire first season on DVD at shopguntalk.com. Get prepared. Shopguntalk.com.
Now you can own a brand new revolver with roots in the 1800s. The astounding North American Arms Ranger 2. A break-action, 5-shot, 22 Magnum mini revolver. Inspired by the Schofield Smith & Wesson of the 1870s, this 7-ounce Magnum revolver is fun to shoot and easy to carry every day. Historic style, high-tech, pocket precision. Check out the new Top Break Ranger 2 at NorthAmericanArms.com. NorthAmericanArms.com.
We're talking about all the, just lies. Here's another one CNN throws out. It's so untrue that you have to know that they know it's not true. So CNN said that President Donald Trump revoked a regulation that Obama had adopted that required the Social Security Administration to report information to the National Instant check system about people with mental illness. But the problem is what CNN says is, well, you know, Donald Trump made it possible for mental incompetents to own guns. Well, that's not what happened. The VA system was going in, and if you, for whatever reason, said, I would like to have somebody else handle my finances for me, and here's that person, that triggered an automatic notification from the VA system about this veteran to the FBI in the instant background check, and it put that veteran on the prohibited list, the prohibited persons list, so that that person could not buy and could not own a firearm. Now, the law says you have to be adjudicated mentally incompetent. Well, to me, that means a judge. In this case, you have a bureaucrat at the VA system is putting people's names on a list and sending them to the FBI. And Donald Trump came in and said, no, the VA system does not get to decide on the basis of somebody wanting somebody else to handle their finances that person is mentally incompetent to have a firearm. And so, by executive order, came back and said, no, you're not going to do that. But CNN says, oh, yes, he wanted all of these mental incompetents to have guns. That's the kind of dishonesty we're talking about here. And it wears on you because it is every day, and it's from all these different sources. And you can't get tired. One of the things that I do, and I would hope that you would take advantage of it, honestly, it's a great resource. If you will follow me on Twitter, I am at Gun Talk on Twitter. I put news stories up. I give you the information you need. I give you intellectual ammunition to combat this kind of stuff. So you can go to the local news source and say, that's not true. And here's what the truth is about it. If you'll follow me on Twitter, again, I'm at Gun Talk there. You'll get tons of information that way, okay? And we're just working on that, and that's a great resource for you. All right, line one, Gary's out of Moscow, Idaho. Hey, Gary, what you thinking here?
How are you, Tom? Thank you for taking my call. I just wondered if you knew of a guy named James Allen Fox. He's a professor of criminology, law, and public policy at Northeastern University. Have you heard of him?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, he's researching a forthcoming book, and he found that in the years from 1999 to 2013, homicides, bicycle accidents, firearm accidents, falls, and swimming pool drownings accounted for 31,827 of the total 32,464 reported deaths. Deaths in school shootings have numbered less than 0.5%. So you put it another way, a young person in the U.S. is about 11 times as likely to die in a swimming pool than in a school shooting. One of the things that he also found that I had heard the other day, because this just came out again, but it was back in 2015, one Alabama middle school sent home letters to parents asking them to send their children the following day with a canned food item weighing at least 8 ounces so that they would have something to throw at a possible school shooter. Now, it doesn't say whether they had to get a concealed can carry permit to do that, but still, it was one of the most ridiculous things it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous on the face of it, and it's sad at the same time, but it goes to show you the level at which people, administrators in this case, will say, we're not willing to really protect people, but we're going to frighten. If one thing, you're going to frighten these kids. You say, look, bring a can of soup with you, and if somebody breaks in to kill everybody, we're all going to throw our cans of soup at them. I mean, first of all, you're going to frighten these kids, and at the same time, you're providing absolutely zero level of protection there. And if parents had any guts, they would show up at school board meetings and do something about it. By the way, if you're not going to school board meetings, then you get what you get. If you're not speaking up, then somebody else is going to speak up for you. Or as somebody told me, says, you know what, if you're not in the meeting, they're going to come out and tell you what happened and what you're going to do. So you can either participate or you can be told what your fate is. All right, back with you. Let's We'll talk to JB. He's in Lake Charles, Louisiana, on line 3. Hey, JB, you're looking at a 28 Nosler? What's going on here?
I was reading the NRA magazine, and it's about the Nosler, the 28 Nosler. I have a Remington 725 model. It was the predecessor to the 721 and the 700, and I have it in 280 caliber. And I was wondering, does this 28 Nosler fit the same? It's 284 inches, or .284. So it's the 280. Right. I'm not a hand
It's a 280. No, you're not going to be able to use that in that rifle. The problem is it is a much larger diameter case. The actual cartridge case itself is fatter. The rim is the 280, I think, is a .473, and the 28 Nosler is a .550. It's a much fatter cartridge. So you'd have to replace, it's like the bolt face as well as rebarrel it. And yeah, the bullet diameter is the same, but almost nothing else is. So that would be a real problem. You're not.
I'm looking at there's a picture in there of 3 bullets. One is the 7mm Rum, the 28 Nosler, and the 30-06. And my 280 is closer to the 30-06. The 28 Nosler appears to be, like you just said, much fatter.
It is, and you're right. Your 280 is essentially, not exactly, but is essentially a 30-06 neck down to 284 caliber. It has a little bit different shoulder, a little bit different neck, but that's essentially what it is. So, I mean, and your 280 is a great caliber. Don't ever think, I mean, that's wonderful caliber. But you're not going to be able to just put a 28 Nosler in there. And honestly, by the time I'm not even sure that you could open up the bolt face enough to make that happen. I don't know if that's even possible. But certainly you're not going to be able to just hand load to get a 280. You know what you could do? Let's think about this. You know what you could do with that? You could rechamber your 280 to the 280 Ackley Improved, which is blows out the shoulder a little bit. It's a wildcat, but you're going to pick up another 100, maybe even 200 feet per second out of it. And it generally is going to shoot really well. 280 Ackley Improved shoot well. So if you're looking for a way to get more velocity out of your 280, that might be the way. And any good gunsmith would be able to just run a chamber reamer in there and rechamber it. And then you shoot your regular 280s in there, and it'll fire form the cases, and they become Ackley Improved cases. And then you can use the dies for an Ackley Improved, and you can do your own hand loading.
Okay. Well, that answers my questions. I couldn't believe the guy about the automatic weapons. Oh.
Yeah, and look, I don't mind having a conversation with somebody that doesn't like guns, as long as we're going to be intellectually honest about it. I mean, but you can't come in here and start throwing junk like that out. And then every time I ask a question, he wanted to dodge it and ask me a question. I said, well, no, wait. If I ask a question, you answer. If you ask me a question, I will answer it the best I can, but you got to give me a chance without interrupting. And I'll do the same thing to you. If you'll answer the question, I'll be quiet and let you do it, okay? But, I don't. The reality is, historically, what I've found is that when you have a gun banner who wants to call a show called Gun Talk, they want to fight. They don't want to have a conversation. They just want to fight. And I'm not really into that. I mean, I will have the intellectually honest conversation with you, and I'll let you have the floor for a while. But you can't say dumb things, and you certainly can't tell untruths and think that I'm not going to call you on it. When we come back, we're going to talk to a veteran law enforcement officer about what we should be doing in our schools. 866-TALK-GUN.